Hello, while the war between Russia and Ukraine is still causing headaches for NATO, it is a fact that NATO has long considered expanding and admitting more countries in Asia. So why does NATO want to expand into Asia? Which potential countries will be invited to join? Let's learn about this issue through the perspective of two members of the US Congress. First, the reason why NATO has to expand into Asia. The answer that many of you have probably guessed is that China's rise has become a threat to the US and the West. In the eyes of Americans, China is a mercantilist, militaristic and warlike country. This has been the major security challenge facing Western democracies since the Cold War. China's growing influence, which would potentially overwhelm other countries if they stood alone, sets the stage for a new order that Beijing will dominate. However, if countries banded together against China, the problem would have become very simple. Currently in the world, NATO is the largest global military alliance with the participation of the US and Western powers, so this will be the most suitable option that the US can use against Beijing. We know that now, wherever in the world China sees benefits, they will set foot, that both challenges and repels Western ideals of democracy. China is getting stronger and stronger, as China's economy and military power grow in the coming decades. Even US congressmen said, in just 20 years, China will be on par with the US both economically and militarily. Then it was also difficult for the US itself to compete with China. And once again, NATO will play its part. When NATO was founded in 1949, its purpose was to protect Western Europe from the Soviet Union and the Communist bloc. It was an era when defending the nations of the North Atlantic was also seen as defending Western democracy. To this day, NATO continues to be the most successful and enduring alliance in history, and although the Soviet Union ceases to exist, its members' commitment continues. In the 21st century, NATO not only operates within the West, but has intervened in many global affairs. For example, after the attacks of September 11, 2001, NATO has joined the United States in its nearly two-decade battle against Islamic extremism. These days, the alliance is not only against cyber attacks, but also threats from China. As such, the United States wants to take NATO beyond defending the physical land of Europe and cyberspace to protecting all the countries that the United States considers democratic. So which country will the US target when admitting more members in Asia? First, countries must be considered democratic by the United States, and these countries must have sufficient resources, strength, and leadership. Simply put, it should be the great powers, and the elite in this group will include Japan, Australia, and South Korea. According to Adam Kinzinger, a Republican congressman and U.S. Air Force lieutenant colonel, said, Australia, Japan and South Korea all have democratically elected governments, market economies and healthy government institutions. NATO should start expanding by inviting these three countries into the alliance. In the long run, the organization could look to other countries such as New Zealand as well as Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, the Philippines and India, if their democracy meets NATO's requirements. Currently, the US is still cooperating militarily with these countries, in which the US is the center, meaning that if necessary, the US can call for assistance from these countries. However, there is no close relationship between Korea and Japan or Japan with Australia. The bilateral framework will only work when the US is at the center. But it can be easily challenged given that China is both the largest economy and the largest military in the world. America's alliances will be stronger if they are formed as a web of reciprocal relationships. In fact, the US has also established an organization called the Diamond Quartet Quad to fight China, which includes the US, India, Australia, and Japan. This organization has promoted defense cooperation among the largest democracies in the Asia-Pacific region. However, Quad is only an informal forum for security communication between countries, lacking a specific mechanism for cooperation and coordination on defense. But anyway, compared to the expansion of NATO to Asia, NATO is much stronger. American leadership is also important. It will bridge the countries that the US considers democracies in Europe and Asia together. The US has a mutual defense obligation with NATO, as well as Australia, Japan and Korea. Linking these commitments together will lead to a much stronger global security alliance for the United States and its allies. No other country can do this important work. While expanding a new NATO to the Asia-Pacific region will bring many benefits to the United States and its member states, it also means provoking China and prompting China to form alliances of its own or an alliance with Russia and its allies. If so, there could be a second Cold War and the world will be severely divided. so that all countries will suffer more or less. So will NATO soon expand to Asia or not? If it expands early, it will provoke China and Russia. If it is too late, China will be too strong until then. It will not be able to react in time. What do you think? Let's discuss together. Thank you for watching the video, goodbye and see you again.